Hey, Refuge Nation! We are here with Bethany Taylor, and she is an outdoor and adventure safety educator. She does a multitude of things when you look through her Instagram and social media and everything. We're going to talk today about some camping and some traveling safety tips that she has for us. So, take it away, Bethany.
I'm Bethany Taylor. Like you said, I love to travel. I do a lot of solo travel. I host all women adventure trips. And then I also do a ton of outdoor education, just specifically kind of in the women's sphere of like getting more women outside, doing it in a very prepared, safe, just in a confident way so that we can make sure we come home safely and we can make sure we have a good time because when we are prepared, we have everything we need. We can go out with confidence, have a blast, and know that anything potentially that shows up that could be a potential danger or something that we just like an obstacle we have to navigate, like we have everything we need physically and mentally to get through it. So I talk a lot, like I said, about safety, just kind of in everyday life, just preparedness of existing as a human, but then like how can we translate that to being on trail, whether it's hiking or camping or trail running or snowboarding, and then also the travel aspect too, because most of the time we kind of have to travel to get to where we want to go, whether we're taking a vehicle and doing a road trip. There's a lot that comes with safety and vehicle preparedness, but then we're traveling through plane. Are we going international? Like where in the world are we going? So it's just a lot of strategies and just kind of experiences I've had to help better and outfit women to navigate any potential things that would show up.
Yeah, yeah, that is awesome. It's definitely something I feel like women that definitely need when they go to traveling. I know the few times I've traveled alone, I'm always like super on edge, like my packing list, becomes like the kitchen sink because I'm like, I need to have
Yeah.
this and I might need to have this. And
Mhm.
women are just way more aware of and need to be way more aware of things when we're out there traveling alone, especially with all these people, coming into the country that don't necessarily follow our rules, and aren't necessarily looking
Yeah.
out for our best interest. Especially when you're out there, and there's no cell service or, you're not near a vehicle that you can just quickly get out and get away. So yeah,
Yep.
so what's like the number one safety tip you'd say when it comes to women being alone, traveling or camping?
Yeah. So I will always start with I kind of hate that I even have to talk about this, about safety, about female safety and getting out and doing the things because the reality is the landscape of our safety has changed and it's very unfortunate. Obviously, we're going to work towards hopefully shifting that. And I hate that like I said, even have to talk about this because I want you to be able to go outside and have to think about like, great, do I have a personal safety tool with me? I'm traveling. Oh, I have to like constantly watch my back. Like, and we never want to live in a state of fear, right? Like we want to live in a state of awareness. And I think that is my like the foundation of our safety lies in our situational awareness. I just made a post on this yesterday, and I know it's not this sexy, flashy thing. Like, believe me, I love personal safety tools. I have a wonderful EDC. Like, I love all these things, and I believe those are a part of our safety and our preparedness. But it really lies with like, do we have any concept of what's going on around us? Are there people, wildlife? Did we pack everything that we need? But again, like the safety, excuse me, the situational awareness part allows us to be kind of two steps ahead. We always want to be in a state of response versus reacting to something happening. We want to be able to respond to something before it escalates or turns into something, or somebody closes our space or something closes our space versus like we're reacting because we weren't paying attention. We were oblivious. Our heads were down on our phones. We were just not even being cognizant of what's going on around us.
Yep.
So the goal is for that early alarm bell to go off, one, our intuition, which again, not really sexy, but like our intuition is our brain communicating with us like, hey, something isn't right.
Hmm.
Someone didn't pass the vibe check. Something feels off. And then we can be in that like state of alertness. I'm like, okay, something, I need to make a move. I need to get myself out of a situation, grab a personal safety tool, call for help, whatever it may be. But that lies with like, we need to be aware of what's going on around us. And unfortunately, we live in a distracted world and we have our phones are always distracting us and the chaos that is going on. So it does take practice to be like
Hmm.
really dialed into, hey, we need to be present. And again, we don't need to live in this like heightened state of fear. And it gets easier to be aware of our surroundings and just like doing spot checks, looking behind us, using reflections to see what's going on behind us while we're remaining vigilant in front of us. So it takes some time if you've never like I grew up in a law enforcement family. My husband's active duty military. It's kind of in my DNA to just be like, yeah, I know what's going on. So if somebody
Yep.
didn't grow up like I did, I had to put myself in their shoes to be like, okay, this is new for them to back into a parking spot to see what's going on, and stuff like that. So if it doesn't feel second nature to you now, it will with time.
Yep. Yeah. I always talked about head on a swivel. And growing up, that was something that was ingrained in me, was head on a
Hmm.
swivel. And it was always called people watching, but now I realize that it was actually
Hmm.
just being aware of my surroundings. And I've really enjoyed it growing up. And my dad taught me at a young age, like, it was a game we always played when we were at a restaurant. He would sit us there when after we ordered and we were trying to kill time because it wasn't back in the days we had smartphones. And he
Hmm.
would say, "Okay, kids, close your eyes." And then he'd go, "How many people are wearing hats in the room?" And we'd have to
Ooh.
visually picture in
Yep.
the room because it made us aware of our surroundings. And I didn't realize that's what my dad was teaching us growing up until I became an adult. And I was like,
Yeah.
huh, now I'm going to start doing that with my kids. And I was like, thanks, Dad.
I love that. And I'm so grateful for how we grew up because
Yeah.
we just have this, again, it's kind of part of our DNA. It's ingrained in us. And yeah, head on a swivel. It's just
Hmm.
paying attention to what's going on around you. And yeah, little games are fun ways to like just be aware of people. I do this
Yep.
little game. This is what I kind of teach people. Well, the goal with being situational aware and kind of two steps ahead is like, is there a deviation from the baseline of normalcy? Normalcy is people just existing in their days and just you're wearing the weather appropriate clothing. Like some guy walks into a restaurant, he's wearing a hoodie and a beanie and
Hmm.
long pants, and it's like 90 degrees outside. You're like, that is deviation from
Yep.
our baseline of what is normal. Red flag. Okay, we're gonna probably gonna have eyes on this guy, or
Yep.
things are getting a little shifty. What's he doing with his hands? Is he being super hyper aware of people? But
Hmm.
when people do walk in, we take a quick peek at them. The game I like to play is like just notice something unique about the person. So if somebody's walking down the street and I never seen them before, I'll be like, oh, okay, he's got like a cool Led Zeppelin shirt on. Great. So I remember that. Or man, he had these really weird like Crocs on or something like super
Yep.
weird about that person. And it just kind of stores in my brain because if I see that person again the
Hmm.
next day or walking in front of my house again or just something weird, I can be like, I saw this person yesterday because I remember this one unique thing about them. So it's just like this little game that you can play to
Okay.
force yourself to be more tapped into kind of what's going on around you.
Yeah, I love that. That's definitely something I'll start using, it's easy remembering of people. Because
Yep.
I've been in those situations in Walmart where you're like, I saw you on this aisle and then I saw you on this aisle and you have nothing in your
Mm-hmm.
cart and you're just oddly
Just like
staring and like you start
the
it
wheel.
all starts connecting and
Yes.
you're like, time to go.
Yep.
For sure.
The wheels are turning. Yeah.
Yeah. So what in the camping, traveling world, would you say is like the not necessarily the biggest threat, but like what are you the most aware of when you're out there?
Me personally.
Yeah, like from all
Yep.
your
So
experiences.
yeah. Other people is I
Yep.
and I hate to say that we have, especially being a female, I do a lot of car
Mm,
camping by myself. I do backpacking, I do hiking, I do all these things by myself. And I love that. But I'm just aware of other people. Most people do have, they're gonna be our biggest threat. Unless you're in like grizzly bear country, then like
yeah.
I never want to meet a grizzly bear.
Nope.
Beautiful, magnificent creatures. I don't want to meet one. You stay over there.
Yep.
But it's the other people. Most people have really great intentions, whether we are traveling or we are camping, and people just want to kind of chitty chat and, oh, what are you doing? You're by
Yep.
yourself. Like some people just are curious and want to talk. There are those small population of people that have other intentions. And
Hmm.
that's when we're like, I think it's important to have a healthy level of skepticism when we are camping and someone comes up to our campsite or we are traveling and their Uber driver starts asking more questions than we're
Hmm.
really comfortable answering. So it's this healthy level of skepticism. We can be respectful and talk to people. People are likely going to be our biggest threat because they're the ones that would potentially want to do harm to us if it got down to that. So healthy level of skepticism. It's okay to lie if you're out. Like you're allowed to bend the truth. Mom's like, never lie. I'm like, I lie all the time to people. I was like, oh, are you solo? Oh no, my husband's coming, or my husband's right around the corner, or he'll be back in a minute, or yeah, I'm going to meet my partner or my brother or whatever on
Yep.
an Uber ride. So we can bend the truth a little bit and kind of like articulating verbal boundaries with people. If somebody is too stepping a little bit into your campsite, like, oh, that's close enough. This is my campsite.
Yep.
Or I'm not interested in having this conversation. Like set that hard boundary
Mm.
because people sometimes just need to be told, like, oh, they may not even realize they're like encroaching on your space in your bubble until you set that hard boundary and be like, okay, they're like, oh, sorry. Like I didn't realize I was doing that. Or they are trying to do
Yep.
something more than just have a conversation. So like set it hard, make sure we are backing up too if like they are encroaching our space. We want to always space is our friend, right?
Yeah.
Seconds matter. If it ever got down, push comes to shove, we want as many seconds as possible. We want as much space as possible between us and another person,
Yep.
whether we're walking down the street in a different country, or we're in Denver, Colorado, or we're in the backcountry, or we're at a local state park campsite. Like we want space between people. We want to articulate our boundaries, and we want to make sure that we have time to react if it got down to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how much like common sense and reading the room is not as common anymore. Like people don't read body
I
language, and you're
know.
like, and I meet people all the time like this, and I'm like, how do you not just read
Did you
body
not
language and
see
read the
that?
room? And like, common sense is not as common anymore, you know?
I
But
know.
yeah, because
And
there are people
I,
who just don't realize they're crossing that boundary. You have to actually say, and you
mm-hmm.
can't like tiptoe around the bush because it only like confuses them
Nope.
more. You have to be straightforward.
Yeah.
And like,
And
don't
it's
don't be afraid to piss them off or make them mad. Like it's your boundary and you have to hold to it for your personal safety because we all have to get home to our families and our loved ones. Yeah.
exactly. And your safety is more important than their feelings is what I always say. So
Oh
like if
yeah.
someone's going to get butthurt about you telling them that you don't want to have this conversation, you're not comfortable answering a specific question, your safety always rings true. Even like if you have this weird gut feeling or this like weird feeling in your stomach and you're like, man, I don't know what it is. I can't articulate what the problem is. And you leave or you tell someone you don't want to speak with them. And you never really know what was triggering your like
Yeah.
intuition, your gut to go off. Don't be apologetic for that because I would rather you be step away from a situation or a person and never know why you wanted that feeling
Hmm.
to go away than to like, oh, sweep it under the rug. You're just being a coward. Just like, no,
Yeah.
like I care about my safety. I have a family to come home to. I have all these amazing things. So if I hurt somebody's feelings, like, sorry about it. Like my safety
Yep.
comes first. And
Yeah.
we never want to negotiate with our intuitions. Like they're 99.9, I would argue 100% always correct.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that spirit that lives inside of us and intuition is always there for a reason. And we need to pay
Yep.
attention to it. I think too many people like just sweep it under the rug, like you said, and just continue through
Hmm.
life. And they're like, oh, I'm just being over worried or anxiety or it's like, nope,
Yeah.
there's a reason for it. You got to listen to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not lying to you.
Okay. So you were talking about Uber. And I did see your
Mm,
reel the other day with your Uber script, and I thought that was really
yeah.
interesting. Um, is there situations, because obviously Uber is used a lot traveling, and
Yep.
being by yourself and things like that. Um, what are some just safety tips that you like a part of your checklist when you are traveling like that and
Yeah.
have to take Ubers?
Yep. So Uber and Lyft specifically are really great modes of transportation, especially if you have like weird hours that you have to travel. There's no shuttle from the airport to your hotel. A couple of things, there are a few things for me. So anytime, obviously, have an Uber, I like to wait inside just to make sure while I'm like waiting for my Uber and requesting it, I wait inside. And then when the vehicle get there, you obviously check, does the license plate and the make and model match the text message you get for the Uber or Lyft? Because sometimes I hate this thing. So sometimes it may like look like it's your Uber, but they don't have the license plate doesn't match, like something weird. So
Hmm.
always check that. When you go to get inside the Uber, you ask, hey, who is this Uber for? They then
Mm,
have to confirm and respond, oh, Bethany versus, oh, is this Uber for Bethany? Yeah, this is for Bethany. And you're like, you just confirmed that because I said it.
I
So
said it.
always,
Yep.
yeah, reverse the script. So always ask, who is this Uber for? I
Mm,
personally like to sit diagonal in the back seat from the Uber driver so that I can see them. I can see their hands. I can see what they're doing type thing. So I always have eyes on the Uber driver. Google Maps. So anytime I'm traveling, I pull up the Google Maps of where we're going on my phone and I follow along so that if for some reason that person takes the exit before the one we were supposed to get off of, I will blatantly say, I'm like, oh, do you have a different way to get to the airport? If I've
Mm,
never been to this airport before and I have no idea where I'm going, I would only know that by being on Google Maps. And they're like,
yeah.
oh, she realized like I took a different turn or whatever it may be. There are a lot of safety features built into the Uber app now, but I like to just kind of follow along on my own Google Maps in case something gets a little weird or they take a left turn. I'm like, why are we going this way? We're supposed to be going this way. I'll obviously send like somebody reliable the Uber information that I'm the person I'm driving with, where we're going, that type of thing. I made the Instagram, I make a fake phone call back. Oh, hey, Bryce, yep, it's me. I just got in the Uber. I sent you the Uber's information. We'll be there in about 20 minutes. I'm following along my GPS. I made a fake phone call. I hate that I even have to like think about doing this, but like
Yeah.
things do happen. So I would rather take 2 steps of precautionary 30 seconds of their life to check a safety box or a preparedness box in
Yep.
order for us to make sure like we let that person know, like that Uber driver know, like, oh, she's vigilant. Like she knows what's going on. This is
Yep.
not the type of person. The likelihood of success is an indicator for like target selection for like people like
Yep.
assailants, the likelihood of success. So it's
Yeah.
something
Make
else kind
yourself
of
a hard
pivoting, like
target.
make yourself a hard target. When
Yep.
you're out and about, eyes up, walking with confidence, making eye contact, being aware of what's going on. Make sure you don't have a bunch of shit in your hands. So you're carrying around a bunch of bags or bottles. Like that person. If somebody came and attacked me, I would literally have to drop everything
Yeah.
and then go for whatever tool I'm grabbing. Or do I even have time to do that? So we want to make sure that other people know like we're paying attention and our heads are on swivels.
Yeah, for sure. Those are great tips. I didn't think about all of those using Ubers, but I've lived in a rural area for a long time, so I haven't even used Ubers in the last several years that have
Yeah.
been a little more
Yep.
dangerous traveling out there. So different note on backpacking, because obviously I see you do
Hmm.
a lot of backpacking and hiking. You have to be pretty minimalist when you're packing for those things
Yes.
because weight matters. So what are your
Hmm.
like key categories that you cover?
Yep. So it always start with a sleep system. So obviously we have shelter of tent. Some people hammock. Some people cowboy camp will sleep on the ground. I love a little
Yep.
solo tent, single tent. So a tent, sleep system, sleeping bag, sleeping pad. Depending on the temperature, you might need a sleeping bag liner to
Mm,
go in your sleeping bag if you need a little bit more warmth. So sleep system, and then you hike in one set of clothes and you sleep in one set of clothes. Like we don't need to bring a bunch of clothes, people. You can wear the same thing over and over again. Bring some wet wipes, wipe it down. Bring a little deodorant if you want to. So we want to make sure we have a nice layering system as well. If we are going to be experiencing changes in temperature, sun goes
yep.
down behind the mountains, you're 20 degrees colder. So do we have a fleece? Do we have a down puff jacket we can squeeze down and carry with us? So we need an awesome layering system for sleep and then also for hiking. On the emergency preparedness side, obviously we need adequate calories, adequate
Mm,
water. I potentially may need a way to filter water too. If we're on a 3 day backpacking trip, you're not carrying all of your water for 3 days,
nope.
unless you're in Joshua Tree, then you water cache. But you need some way to filter water. Are we using a purification system? Are we using iodine tablets? Don't recommend that. Not the most tasty thing in the world.
Yep.
Can we filter our water? And then do we have adequate food? And then another day's worth of food. Cool, I'm out for 3 days. I'm packing for 4 days of food. Is that a
Mm,
little bit of extra weight? 100%. But if
yeah.
something happens, I have food and calories so that my brain works properly, so that I can make swift decisions if I'm in a situation where I have to stay out overnight.
Yeah.
Um, comms. So most of the time, we're probably not going to have service, which is beautiful. And I
Mm,
love going to places where you can't get a hold of me. But if something happens, how am I going to get in touch with people? How do people know I'm on track for where I'm supposed to be camping? Did I get injured? Can I get myself out to the front country? If I'm in the back country, how am I getting in touch with somebody? I use a Garmin InReach Mini,
oh yeah.
the satellite communication phone. It is $400, but it is worth every penny of that. I take it on all of my backpacking and hiking trips. It's great also for like we don't have power or we don't have service because of a natural disaster or if the grid goes down. How am I supposed to get in touch with people? I can use a satellite communicator through my Garmin. So multiple uses, not just in the
Yep.
backcountry. So yeah, I love that for communication. Always check in with your safety buddy, whoever it is at home. I have 2 people I always send my information to. I let them know when I get to camp. I let them know where I park. I let them know what trail I'm going to, what trail head that I'm parking at, just as much information as possible and I let them know who to contact if something were to happen. Like, great, I'm in Mount Rainier National Park. You need to contact the rangers if something does happen. They're going to be the ones that go in, search and rescue, that type of thing. That's my safety, like
Yeah.
contingency plan for my pace plan for communication. And then, oh yeah, food, water. I always bring an emergency blanket with me. It is great for shelter. It is great for signaling if I needed to. It's a
Yep.
bright orange Mylar. And then obviously you can use it as a sling if you need to. You can
Mm,
use it as a ground tarp. So those are kind of like, I could talk about gear forever, but
yeah.
those are like really the big ones. Then obviously whatever personal safety tool you decide to
Yep.
bring with you. I usually have some form of like a knife or a dagger. That's just kind of something I always wear on my front. Bear spray, if I'm in bear country, can be used on bears and also on people. It says don't use
Hmm.
it on people on the container, but I'm like, push comes to shove, I have to use my
Yep.
resources. So that's a
Yeah.
great
Gotta
one.
use what you got.
Exactly. Any personal tool you carry, obviously, most people who are listening to this probably know it needs to be an accessible spot, something you're comfortable using, something that's legal in your country, and
Hmm.
something that you are comfortable potentially utilizing if we
Hmm.
got to that kind of like lethal side of things.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah,
is
those
there
are kind of a
anything,
fast pack.
yeah, that's great. Is there anything odd that you would say like you take that not a lot of other people take?
I don't think so. Usually there's one thing that like people bring with them. I'm a rule follower. I'm like, this is the list of things I need to bring. I have my 10
Okay.
essentials. I have food and like I bring a book or Kindle with me. I know that's like kind of like a weird one. Um, it's like a little bit of extra weight, but it's something like I like reading in my tent with my headlamp, which is also something you need to bring as a headlamp.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, nothing, I don't have any cool, weird, quirky things that I bring with me.
I mean,
But yeah,
reading a book out in the middle of the quiet country sounds awesome.
my
And
favorite thing to
headlamps,
do.
a headlamp is become my favorite thing as a mom camping, because I need to be able to have light and still be hands-free with it because I have 4 kids. So I need to be able to maneuver and do things and cook.
Yep.
We've been camping out the whole week, and that was something
Hmm.
the first time I went camping out with kids, I was like, oh, I can't just use a flashlight anymore. Like I need a headlamp because it has to be hands-free at this point. And I
Yep.
realized like how useful headlamps are. It'd be
100%.
great.
And I think my favorite part about like camping stuff is it translates over to a lot of preparedness in our regular life because I have an entire bin downstairs of like uh all of our camping stuff. And it's all things I would use if grid went down, power outages, if the shelves got cleared out of food for X amount of time, like everything. If you're a camper or hiker, you are already on that first nice baseline level of preparedness in your everyday life because we could use headlamps for vehicle maintenance and then we could also use it for like walking around the house if the power's out. Like I always like joke around with people like, oh, I don't know if I'm like prepared if whatever happened. I was like, live 3 days in your house with no running water and no power and let me know how
Yeah.
you turn out. That's how you find your vulnerabilities in your life is being, I don't have access to power or like lighting or just like general
Mhm.
electricity and then no water or no, yeah, just like no light. Like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah. And
good luck. What do you
yeah,
need?
figure it out. I
Yeah.
know cooking was a big thing that it takes a shift in cooking on a fire versus
Yes.
cooking in an oven or a stove. Our first time camping, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it takes a whole lot longer for some things to cook. And then it also, you burn things super quickly on the other side. So there's this
Yep.
happy medium, and it's really all about trial and error when it comes to. I
Yep.
remember one of our friends tried to bake bread in a Dutch oven.
Ooh,
The
yeah.
inside was great. The outside was like a burnt rock.
Incinerated.
Yeah.
Incinerated. It is a craft. So we definitely stick with the camping stoves and like, or we'll bring, we have like a really cool Coleman two burner. If we're doing uh, like car camping, it's a little bit different setup, right? Than if you're going backpacking. Because with car camping, you can bring luxuries with you. You can
Yep.
bring a stove. You can bring, we should call it a Blackstone grill. Like all we need is
Mm,
propane and a Blackstone, and like we can just put that in the back of the Land Cruiser and like go camping. But if I'm backpacking, I'm like, you have a little baby stove, you have one pot, and you got to get creative. But
yeah.
yeah, camping, like just these are skills too, right? Like, hey, we're gonna practice cooking on an open fire in an open flame. Do we know how to start a fire? Can we start a fire? Do we have all of our fire starting essentials with us? And then great, what food we're bringing. How long is it going to take to cook? Do we have enough wood
Mm,
to burn properly? So it's fun. Like obviously we want to do it in like a low consequence, like, oh, I'm not like I'm surviving, trying to fight for my life, learning how to start a fire versus let's do it with family and friends. And we have YouTube to help us and we have
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah.
So we want to learn all these skills without, we want to learn these skills before we get to the point where we're like, oh, my life depends on this, or like my survival or my family's safety depends on this. So those skills, those courses, those classes we're taking, YouTube videos we're watching, these little things that we're doing, they may not feel like really cool and monumental because we're not like, if they're not these big extravagant things, but these little skills make such a difference if things did get to a place where we're like, we have to rely on ourselves.
Yeah. Oh man. Um, oh man, I just thought of something and I lost it.
That's my
Um,
life. I'm a squirrel.
yeah. Um, it's so many different things when it comes to
I
all of
know
these
we,
topics. We could just talk for days and hours. But let's see.
yeah.
We'll end it with this. What is like your, what's a good book recommendation you have for the listeners?
For what category?
Hmm. Let's just go like preparedness or adventures. Like keep it with what we've been talking about.
Um, so I'm actually going to take it a different way. So Gift of
Okay.
Fear. I have it. Kevin DeBecker, Gavin DeBecker. Yeah, it's called Gift of Fear, and
Okay.
it's really, he talks a lot about it's not really necessarily in like the preparedness space, but it's more of like how like our intuition, our brains, and how we can pick up
Hmm.
we're existing in life, how we can pick up on subtle cues of people that we notice later that we should have actually paid attention to
Hmm.
before. It just makes you think about, like, he takes cases of like that people have been potentially assaulted or hurt or whatever, and he talks to them about like,
Oh wow.
did you miss something? Did he helps them like work through what happened? And it talks about like the science behind like our brains and our intuition. So, Gift of Fear. It's a really fantastic book. I do a lot of like little quotes from his book in a lot of the like webinars that I teach. So it's a really great book.
Yeah.
There's so many awesome resources out there for like preparedness, like YouTube videos and then
Oh yeah.
Instagrams. And yeah, I just like digital technology has been really powerful because if you can't go to a class, you want to start food storage or you want to get into like personal safety or self-defense, you can watch probably something on YouTube and like kind of get like grasp for it and then
Hmm.
hopefully find something in person because hands-on is always going to be
Always better.
reign true for
Yep.
everything, and it's everything is perishable too, so we want to make sure we're keeping up with those skills
Hmm.
by doing them regularly.
Yep. Yeah, I remember what I was gonna say before. I was gonna say
Oh,
everyone needs to start where they're at. And that kind of
yes.
covers all the topics is like even if you've never been camping, like start with just camping in your backyard. Don't go to Mount Everest and camp in the middle of the woods by
Yeah.
yourself. Like
No.
don't do that.
Yep.
Um, make it a fun weekend with your family. Like turn off the
Yep.
electricity, cook your food outside. Because then you'll start to learn and figure out those holes that you're missing in your
Hmm.
preparedness. But if you don't actually do it and put it into practical applications, you're not going to see what you're missing and what you need. And you won't see like what you packed that you didn't need either. Because I know when I'm out there packing and camping,
Yes.
if I can, I pack the whole kitchen sink. And I'm like, oh, I didn't
Yeah.
touch that the whole week. Like
Yep.
I didn't really need that. I could have used this and it could have covered, three of my bases and not just one of them. Things
Yep.
that have a multitude of, ways you
Usages.
can use them, usages, is definitely needed out there camping and traveling because you want to be light and minimalist across the board when you're doing things like that. So,
Yeah, no, that I have nothing to add because that's something
yeah,
exactly what I would say. Yep, me and
that's
it
perfect.
feels overwhelming if we want to start dialing into things with our safety or preparedness or whatever it may be. But like, take a look at your life and like pick one thing to focus on because there are a million courses you can take, a
Oh
million
yeah.
ways you can start having like your go bag building. Like start there. That's a great place to start. Do you have a go
Yep.
bag? If things get weird and you have to hightail out of your house or whatever it may be for whatever reason, where do you have things to keep you fed for 3 days? Do you have gas in your car? What does the maintenance look like on your vehicle? Where are your important documents? People like
Hmm.
most people probably don't know where their passports or birth certificates or social security cards are. Mine
Yep.
are in a fire and waterproof bag, and they go in my go bag, and I leave. So
Yep.
that's a great place to start if we're looking at the preparedness space. Uh, is building out just kind of a go bag, especially if you have like little ones too, making sure they have everything they need.
Yep. Yeah, there's so many more things I feel like they need when you travel with kids compared to if you were just traveling
I'm
alone.
sure.
I'm like, I can
Yep.
pack in a tiny little backpack if it's just me traveling, but then
Yeah.
if I take the kids, it's like there's always something,
Uh,
especially littles,
I I
because
can't
there's
even imagine.
comfort
I don't
items.
have. Yes. Yes. No kids for me, but I have a niece and nephew that I'm always like, they help me think in terms of being a mother. Um,
Mm,
so when I educate, I try and like protect, like I obviously don't have experience with children, but like I think of like if I was with my niece and nephew, like what would that look like for them and making sure
mm,
they're taken care of, you know?
yep.
So it helps me think that way.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we will close this out, and I'm sure we will chat again because I feel like there are so many different
Hmm.
topics that you
Oh yeah.
educate on. Situational awareness, I think we could talk on 30 minutes alone on that. So I appreciate
Yes.
you coming on with us, Bethany, and hopefully
Yeah, for
everybody
sure.
enjoyed. Let them know where they can find you.
I am most present. The only social media platform I use is Instagram because I hate social
Yeah,
media, but I have to be on it. So it's just my full name at Bethany Cora Taylor. And if you watch this and you were stoked on it and want to learn more, just shoot me a message and we can connect.
perfect. Thanks so much. Have a great
See ya.
day. Bye.